All right, everyone, what's going on? Bryce Gelman here today to preview Knicks versus the Celtics. Game 1 tonight at 7 o'clock, May 5th. A series in which most fans understood was inevitable if the Knicks wanted to get where they thought they can get starting the season, which is an NBA Finals and a Larry O'Brien trophy. And, of course, the expectations have changed. The goalposts have moved. And this Knicks-Celtics series is looked at by the majority of people as a series that may not be close in terms of the Celtics absolutely destroying the Knicks. A lot of people out there think that the Celtics may sweep the Knicks. They think that the Celtics might beat them in a gentleman's sweep. I'm going to get to my predictions. I'm going to discuss a multitude of things, but I'm going to start with this. I want to talk about the Knicks' record against the Celtics in the last 9 matchups. So over the last 2 years, they played them 5 times last year. If you remember, it was because of the in-season tournament. They played an extra game against them, and I believe the Pacers as well, which was a joke. It might have been the Cavs. I don't know, but they played. Oh, it was the Bucks. They played 5 games against the 2 of the 3 or 4 best teams in the Eastern Conference. That was a joke. But the Knicks, if you remember that, the last year's record, they went 1-4. The one win being the last game of the regular season. Between the two of them, they'd already played 4 times. It was the 5th matchup. Jalen Brunson went off. Scored some clutch baskets, and they blew out the Celtics in that game. But the Knicks are 1-8 over the last 2 years against the Celtics. And here's the thing: it's not like the Knicks have played poorly on the offensive side. They're shooting 46% from the field and 38% from 3. That would be one of the best marks throughout the league if that was if the Knicks shot that during the regular season. And that's not on again, it's a 9-game sample size. That's like 1/10 of the season right there. A little bit more than 1/10 of the season. That's a pretty large sample size. The Knicks got absolutely blitzed in the 4 games they played against the Celtics this year. The first game of the season, everyone remembers it. It was opening night. The expectations were through the roof for the Knicks. Trash talk between Celtics and Knicks fans was at an all-time high, and the Knicks go out of their way to. I'm gonna blame it on them because of course the Celtics have to hit their wide open threes. The Knicks gave them wide open 3 after wide open 3 after wide open 3. The Celtics tie the NBA record in 3-pointers made in a game. The Knicks got absolutely destroyed. Might be the most demoralizing defeat of the season, albeit it was at the start of the season. Expectations were extremely high. I think that made everyone return to earth. And it was a major reality check that this team needed more time to gel. And what we've seen over the course of the season is sustained success from the Celtics against the Knicks. It wasn't a one-time thing. The Celtics weren't a one-hit wonder against the Knicks earlier on this season. This continued throughout their matchups through the rest of the season. There was only one game that was close, and that was the final game they played together against each other in the regular season, a game in which the Knicks should have won. They allowed a game-tying Jason Tatum 3 with the clock winding down, and they allowed a 30-footer from Kristaps Porzingis in overtime that eventually sealed the victory for the Celtics. That was the closest game that they played. That's the closest game they played against them in the last 2 years that they've lost, that they haven't lost. But that they have lost. They haven't won. So out of the 8 games the Knicks lost to the Celtics over the last 2 years, only 2 of those games were decided by 5 points or less. These are not close games. The Knicks are just losing at the last second. These are games in which the Celtics' execution completely outweighs whatever the Knicks are able to do on both ends of the court. And again, as I said, the Knicks have pretty good stats offensively against the Celtics team. It's just on the defensive end, they cannot defend the 3 to save their lives. They really can't. The Celtics are shooting 50% from the field over those 9 games, 41.4% from 3 on 44 threes a game. That's a lot of volume. And 41.4% on that volume? I'm not great at math, but that leads to 60-plus points from three a game. So it's become an issue. And I think I don't stand alone in my observation that what we've witnessed from the Knicks against the Celtics is not encouraging going forward. And I know there are plenty of people out there who want to believe in the idea that the postseason and the regular season are two different animals. But when you see that large of a sample size of success from one team against another and the multitude of ways that one team has beat that other team, I think it lends itself to a pretty pessimistic view of what can happen in a series. And it's something that I've had a bunch of arguments with people on Twitter, with Alex B, Nick Central, where people, for whatever reason, have this false hope and expectation that is largely tied to their view as a fan that anything can happen, that there is hope even when there shouldn't be. Fans have a difficult time being objective about their teams. Those are the types of fans that I get into arguments with. And I understand. As a fan, I want to believe the Knicks have a chance in the series. I'm going to get to my predictions. I think you could tell where this is going. But I wanted to just underline what has happened between these two teams through the course of the last 2 years. I understand last year's Knicks team is entirely different from this Knicks team. But even with the changes throughout the roster, the Knicks still struggle against the Celtics. The Celtics are still able to hit threes at an unbelievable clip. This Celtics team, as evidenced by their championship they won last year, is built almost perfectly. They have depth. Their five guys in their starting lineup fit seamlessly with each other. Each of them it can be considered a great defender. The Knicks simply don't have that same cohesiveness throughout their starting lineup. The Knicks went out. They traded for Mikal Bridges. They traded for Karl-Anthony Towns in the offseason to be able to compete with the Celtics. And what have they done throughout this regular season? The 4 games they played against them, they have not competed with the Celtics. So I don't think that this success, and also you look at what Jason Tatum, the Celtics' best player and arguably a top 5 player in the NBA, has done. He's averaged 33.5 points per game against the Knicks on 53.5% from the field. He's got whatever he has wanted. The Knicks have tried to stick OG Anunoby on him, in game in and game out against the Celtics. But the Celtics are able to generate switches at a very difficult rate to defend. And when they do, when they get the smaller defender on him, they get Jalen Brunson on him, they get Josh Hart on him, his size is just too much for these other Knicks defenders to handle. OG can be a Jason Tatum stopper. He's just going to have to fight through these screens. Whatever defender sets them, is it going to be Derek White? Is it going to be Kristaps Porzingis? Whomever the defender is on the player who is setting the screen has to do a good job of allowing for an easy switch with OG Anunoby. Hedge out. I understand the difficulty in defending the Celtics team because anyone who sets these screens could roll or can pop. And if they pop, like they do a lot, these guys who shoot, above league average from 3 can knock them down at an extremely high efficiency. And what do the Celtics do? The Knicks don't. Is shoot threes at an extremely high volume. And I just don't see how the Knicks catch up with the volume shooting that the Celtics will have in this series if they want to win. I just don't think that that's possible. But let's look at what the Celtics have done throughout the course of the season. They made 17.4 threes per game, which is 1.4 more than the next closest team in the NBA. They shot, I don't know the exact number, but 10th in the league in percentile from 3. When you're shooting that many threes and you're still shooting 10th in terms of percentage in the league, it leads to, again, a very difficult time from the opposition to defend that. It's almost as if like you gotta let it go and let them beat you from 3, and it's just not a winning mindset. And then you try to stop them in the paint, or you try to defend the 3, and the Celtics get to the paint and they convert just as well as they would from three. They are just built perfectly to do whatever they want in the offensive end. The Celtics could beat you in a variety of ways. As I mentioned, you could see the Knicks haven't played poorly on offense against them. And as I said, the Celtics are hitting 17.4 threes a game, which is the highest in the league. Tatum has been just as good this year as he has been throughout his entire career. 27, 8, and 6 averages, only shooting 34% from three, but that's on 10 attempts per game. And it's something that, again, with the high volume, it's okay if you shoot that poorly from three. If you're still getting up shots, because it's very easy if the rest of your team is effective from three, because, in games that they're not, you're going to have to force up threes. The Knicks don't have a guy like that. They don't have anyone who could chuck up threes. It's something that Dante DiVincenzo did extremely well with the Knicks. He was able to get his shot up over taller defenders, over small, you name it. He was able to get shots up. The Knicks don't have someone who could do that. Mikal Bridges does not shoot well enough from three to justify him forcing threes, forcing 7, 8 threes per game. That, for whatever reason, is not included in the ebbs and flows of the offense enough to get him more than 5 3 attempts per game. It's something that you saw the Knicks have a great deal of success with when he was utilized, not only from three, but in as a major facet of the offense against the Pistons. The Knicks played their best against the Pistons when Karl-Anthony Towns was involved early. Cat doesn't shoot more than 5 threes a game. Like, if the Knicks want to win this series, they're going to need Karl-Anthony Towns to shoot threes at a high volume. The Celtics do it, and they still shoot 10th best in the league from three. Jaylen Brown, the Celtics Robin to Tatum's Batman. 27, that was Tatum. Brown, 22, 6, and 4.5 assists per game. But again, with just like Tatum, Jaylen Brown is only shooting 32% from three. And that's in the regular season. And of course, Jaylen Brown is now shooting 44%, 8 for 18 from three in the postseason. These guys raise their games when it comes to the big moments in the postseason. They rise to the occasion. Another thing this Celtics team was unbelievable at was winning road games. They were 33-8 on the road this season. By far the best mark in the league. Like, they are unbelievable at winning games in hostile environments. Celtics fans travel well. I don't think they travel as well as Knicks fans. I don't think there's many Celtics fans as there are Knicks fans. But still, these guys perform in places other than TD Garden. I think it's consensusly known that TD Garden has a top 5 atmosphere in the NBA. So not only is it very difficult to win at TD Garden, but the Celtics, for whatever reason, are able to perform in environments that are going to be difficult to play in. And the issue is, and we've seen it time and time again this season, Madison Square Garden is not what it used to be. Players love to thrive on the biggest stage in basketball. Knicks fans are always going to bring the energy. They did throughout the mid-2010s when they sucked, when they were winning under 25 games year in and year out. The fans still showed up. The fans still cheered on their team. And whenever, and I understand it was extremely infrequent, but whenever the Knicks had a clutch moment, had a big win, the fans would provide the energy and give them that home court advantage. But what we've seen, and amongst the league's best players, is they perform on the biggest stage in basketball. They love to meet the occasion at MSG. There are plenty of players out there, and for good reason, who say that MSG is one of their favorite places to play. It's New York, the biggest city in the country. One of the most important cities, if not the most important city in the world. It's unlike any other city. And the Garden is like any other atmosphere in the NBA because it's in New York. and because of the energy the fans bring. And there's no better feeling for a superstar in this league to go into an opposing arena, especially MSG, again, on the biggest stage in basketball, and shut up the crowd. And it's something that Jason Tatum did and has done time and time and time again. And this Celtics team, it's not like any other team in the league that comes to MSG, may not be as good on the road, but has a star player that's going to meet the occasion, rise to the occasion, and win a game for said team. Jason Tatum has dominated at MSG. And again, the Celtics are 33-8 on the road. 33-8. It's going to be very difficult if the Knicks do not win one of these games at Boston. It will be extremely difficult. Now, when you look at what the Celtics do best and their biggest strengths is, as I mentioned before, how well they're built. They run a 5-out offense where if you don't really know what a 5-out offense is, it's exactly what it sounds like. 5 players are on the perimeter. It's a lot of passing and cutting and screening and picking and popping and occasionally rolling to the basket. And it's something that has clearly worked for them, even at the volume that they take threes. Going 5-10 years back, even a couple of years, that style of basketball was looked at by the majority of the league as an unsustainable way to win. The Celtics proved everyone wrong by the success that they had last year in winning the championship, by playing that type of basketball. So it's something that you're going to see. They're bigs. They've Kristaps Porzingis. That was one of the best trades the Celtics have made in their franchise's history. Getting a player like that who could space the floor as well as he could space it, you have to respect Kristaps Porzingis from 30 feet out. And that's extremely difficult because you can't put a forward or a guard on him. He will shoot directly over the top of that defender. You have to put your biggest player on it. And that is why I'd like to see more of Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns in the lineup together. You are going to see Luke Kornet and Kristaps Porzingis. You're going to see Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford being played by Joe Mazzulla. The Celtics will do it. They're not afraid to play 2 bigs in the same lineup. The Knicks can't be afraid as well. So this Celtics team can beat you in a variety of ways. You saw in that third game that they played against the Celtics, where it was the closest game that the Knicks lost. They had an amazing third quarter where they almost came back, and the Celtics pulled away and ended up winning that game by, I believe, 13. But in that first half, they shot 4 for 18 from 3. They were up 20 points. The Celtics could beat you when their shots are on fall. The talent gap as well is not that large between these two teams. If you're looking at strictly starting lineups, and I'm not talking about cohesiveness, I'm not talking about how well these players fit together, I'm just talking about sheer talent on paper. The Knicks have a more talented starting 5. And I guarantee there are plenty of Celtics fans, casual NBA fans, whomever, that would disagree with that sentiment. But if you look at the Knicks 1 through 5, and maybe not the defensive end, but offensively, they are more talented than the Celtics. Where the Celtics beat you, where the Celtics are head and shoulders ahead of the Knicks is in their depth. And not only does their starting lineup complement each other, but the depth complements their starting lineup just as well as the starting lineup complements each other. Peyton Pritchard, 6th man of the year. One of the best bench scorers in the league. Also shoots the 3 at a high clip. Al Horford, who one of the most impressive players in NBA history for his longevity, to be as consistent as he has been throughout his entire career, I think shouldn't be understated. Like, he's one of the most underrated players in the league. Any team would die to have him off their bench. I think I would do anything to have the Knicks to possess Al Horford. He'd really up. He's someone who also spaces the floor, can shoot the 3 extremely well for a guy of his size and a guy of his age. They also have Sam Hauser, another sharpshooter on the bench, who also shoots threes at a high clip. This bench does exactly what the Celtics need them to do: shoot threes at a high volume. They also have Luke Kornet, Knicks legend, who has established himself as a very valuable bench role player for the Celtics team. So, like, you look at the Celtics benches compared to the Knicks bench, and it's like night and day. Something I want to get into regarding the Knicks' keys to the game and keys to the series largely revolves around their bench and one specific player. I'm sure you can guess who that player is. But the Celtics do not need to shoot well from three to win a game. It will take a very bad offensive game and a really good offensive game from the Knicks to win any game in this series. That's why you see people predicting the Celtics to win this series. Everyone. I mean, you look at the odds. I checked, and I've seen -7, 8, 900 for the Celtics to win this series, which is just absurd when you consider the changes that the Knicks made this offseason. When you consider that the Knicks had the third best odds to win the championship after the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. When you consider the Knicks are the 3 seed, the Celtics are the 2 seed, and people are giving them no chance to win this series. And for good reason. But let's get into the Knicks' keys to the series. In no particular order. This is just what I believe the Knicks need to do to win. One, they have to defend the 3 better. It's something we saw the Magic have a lot of success with, where the Celtics averaged, an extremely less amount of threes per game taken than they did during the regular season. As I said, they didn't only shoot the most threes. They didn't only make the most threes this season. They also shot the most threes per game this season. That shouldn't come as a surprise to you. The Magic did a great job at closing out on shooters, playing physical defense in the paint, and forcing the Celtics to get up tough looks. You want to know what the Celtics did in that series? They won it in 5. So the Magic cracked the code and still got obliterated in the series. And it's going to be extremely difficult for the Knicks to replicate that with the lack of the size they have in the starting lineup. No matter what you want to say, with how Karl-Anthony Towns plays defensively, it's a small ball lineup. With OG at the 4, Hart at the 3, Mikal at the 2, you could interchange any one of those guys. They don't necessarily play a position or role. It's technically 3 wings in that starting lineup and a center and a point guard. And Jalen Brunson's, again, we understand how small he is and how difficult of a job it is for him to defend the majority of his opponents. I think if he was 3 or 4 inches taller, he'd be an amazing defender, but he's not. That's just the reality of the situation. He gets bullied a lot, forced onto switches, the better players in switches. The Knicks need to defend the 3. They do. 41.4% from the Celtics over the last 2 years against the Knicks is unacceptable. It could be better than that. There have been a multitude of games over the course of those 9 games in which the Celtics didn't have a great performance from 3. But there have been others, like the first game they played this season, the opening game of the NBA, where the Celtics couldn't miss from 3, and the game got out of hand extremely fast. And that is something we may see again. Like, that's the reality of the situation. Karl-Anthony Towns needs to do a better job at defending the pick and roll. There's a reason why Cat plays so much drop coverage and gets obliterated in the drop coverage. But if he's not in drop coverage, he gets obliterated on the pick and roll anyway. So the Knicks are stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to defending the pick and roll with Karl-Anthony Towns as the center in the game. There's no one on this Knicks team who defends the pick and roll better than Mitchell Robinson. I would love to see the Mitch Cat lineup utilized a lot more than it has been utilized this playoffs. And I get it. I understand opposing teams will just go into a Hacker Robinson situation, and for good reason. It clearly was effective for the Pistons. And I wouldn't be shocked if Joe Mazzulla employed the same strategy in this series as well. The fact of the matter is, at the start of the second quarter, at the start of the fourth quarter, when the Celtics have 0 fouls, you got to play Mitch. You got to play Karl-Anthony Towns and just see what you have. The Knicks are going to have to get experimental in this series if they want any chance to win it. And I understand that that's not something that Tom Thibodeau likes to do. He's an extremely rigid guy, an extremely rigid coach. And it has been a major knock on him over his tenures, not just his tenure with the Knicks, but with the Bulls and the Timberwolves as well. Like, this is a guy who is not a ceiling raiser, he's a floor raiser. And that could be largely attributed to his lack of willingness to go out and change how he coaches and his style of coaching. And again, it's going to have to change if the Knicks want to win this series. That's another key to this series. Not something that I had planned here. It's not something that I had in my notes, but Tom Thibodeau is going to have to coach an extremely solid series. Another thing that the Knicks are going to need to do, and it's part of the blueprint of success that the Magic showed the Knicks, and that's playing extremely physical against this Celtics team. I'm not going to tell you they're soft. They're not a soft team, but the Knicks team last year and all those tough guys they possessed would have had an extremely easy time getting the Celtics off their game, defending the three well, forcing difficult shots in the paint. The Knicks don't employ the right defenders to be able to do that, but they're going to have to be physical nonetheless. There's really no excuse. They did it as well as they possibly could have against the Pistons. They rose to the occasion against the team that was one of the most physical to make the playoffs. The Knicks met the occasion. They rose to the occasion. So that's another thing they're going to need to do is play extremely physically on the defensive end. Another one, again, I prefaced this earlier, is Deuce McBride, straight up. Deuce McBride. He was pathetic. He was so freaking bad against the Pistons. He only scored 23 points in that series. 23 points. Shot 30% from the field. 30%! Simply not good enough. With this team's lack of depth, as someone who was considered one of the best six men in the league, one of the best role players in the league, one of the best contracts in the league, Deuce McBride has to be better. He has to. If the Knicks can't get any production from him off the bench, if he continues to be unplayable, the Knicks have zero chance in this series. They have zero. I don't care how good Jalen Brunson plays. I don't care how well Karl-Anthony Towns plays. The Knicks need production from their bench. It's not like you could trust Landry Shamet. It's not like you could trust Campaign on a night-to-night basis. Deuce McBride and what he has been able to provide you last year in the postseason, this year throughout the regular season until he got hurt, was solid defense. And it lended to an extremely playable guy on a game-by-game basis. And since then, it seems like he's lost the ability to defend. And it's not like he's knocking down threes at a high clip like he has done in years past, in games past. He has sucked. And he needs to figure it out if the Knicks want any chance to win the series as well. And it's not like there's like an impact just from Deuce McBride being on the court for himself and the rest of the team. Jalen Brunson largely benefits from Deuce McBride being on the court, and when Deuce McBride is effective on the court. Jalen Brunson shot 12% better from the rim, at the rim, and 8% better from beyond the three-point line when he played with Deuce in the line. And I'm sure if you look at the playoff stats, those stats are nowhere near the same because the defenses don't necessarily respect Deuce McBride and his three-pointers. and his three-point prowess. But listen, if the Knicks want to win this series, if you want to see an easier path to success from Jalen Brunson, where it's not just iso ball and he's forced to to take tough shots, then Deuce McBride is going to need to show up and then some. And the last thing, in an ideal world, if the Knicks want any chance to win this series, the Knicks have to play perfectly on the offensive end. They need to get Karl-Anthony Towns involved early in each game. They need him to shoot at a high clip and a high volume from three. There can't be any circumstance in which Karl-Anthony Towns is shooting less than 5 threes a game in this series. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what you have to do off ball to get him free, to get him open. I don't care how far from the hoop that he has to shoot to get 6 or 7 threes up a game. I don't care what it takes. There can't be any excuses. The Knicks are going to need to move the ball and look at least somewhat cohesive on the offensive end throughout the course of a game. Jalen Brunson iso ball works in short spurts. It works down the stretch of games. He is the clutchest player in the NBA. He won the Clutch Player of the Year award for a reason. It is not sustainable over a long period of time in any quarter of any game of the entire season. Simply not sustainable enough. It's beating the dead horse at this point. We have discussed it here. Plenty of other people have discussed it. It is where the Knicks live, but it's mainly where they die. The stagnation that results from Jalen Brunson holding the ball. He's a guy that you can rely on and you could trust to show up in the biggest moments. He won't be able to do that if the Knicks don't do exactly what I just said, which is defend the three better, play physical defense. Deuce McBride needs to show up, and the Knicks need to play perfectly on the offensive end, and not just perfect basketball from Jalen Brunson, but from Cat, most importantly, from OG, who we saw a level of offensive prowess that we had not seen from him throughout the course of his career, in which he averaged over 26 points per game over an 8-game stretch in which Jalen Brunson was out with his ankle injury. We need to see a solid performance from him. We need to see Mikal Bridges continue where he left off in Game 6 against the Pistons. We need to see him shoot well from three. I think it's far-fetched to expect him to shoot well from behind the arc, specifically from the wings and from the top of the key. I know it's been debunked largely, but I think his three-pointer is shot, and I think is broken. I think his shot is nowhere near what it used to be. I don't think the Knicks give up 5 first-round picks if they think, and they understood, hindsight's 2020, obviously. I don't think they ever expected Mikal Bridges to be as bad from the top of the key and the wings that he has been throughout the season from three. It's been terrible. Mikal needs to show up, and another guy, and someone who a lot of people have pointed out as their most important player in this series is Josh Hart. You know what type of defense they're going to play on Josh Hart. It's going to be Kristaps Porzingis on him. A 7'3" guy who's going to be able to roam the paint as technically the free safety. That is what the Celtics will be able to do with Josh Hart on the court, because opposing teams simply just do not respect his three-point shot. And that is something that we will continue to see again with a guy who's 7'3", Karl-Anthony Towns, or this guy who's 7'3", Kristaps Porzingis, who's going to be guarding Josh Hart in this series. All he has to do is shoot the three with confidence. They fall, they fall. If they don't, they don't. But if he shoots them at a high volume and he's knocking them down at a 35% clip, opposing defense will have no other option but to hedge out. And what happens when you hedge out is you're able to get free looks at the basket, backdoor cuts, off-ball screens, easier switches. So that is also of the utmost importance that Josh Hart shows up offensively in this series, and he continues to push the ball in transition. The Knicks are a better team, and they showed that against the Pistons when they're getting out in transition, when they're getting second chance points as well. Mitch and Josh Hart need to be extremely active on the offensive glass. You know, if the Celtics get out in transition, they kill you there, you live with that. The Knicks need second chance opportunities if they want to win this series. They need to play perfect basketball. My final prediction is Celtics in 5. Call me a hater. Call me a fake fan. Say whatever you want about me. The Knicks did not prove a single thing in the regular season against the Celtics. And you could sit here and tell me, oh, but the postseason, it's 0-0 record. It's different than the regular season. How much deviation could we realistically see from what we saw in the regular season to what we are going to see in the playoffs? Not much. And again, it's not like the Knicks played them close in the first 3 games that they played against them this season. They didn't. None of those games were even close. The Knicks played 1 good quarter over the course of the 12 quarters they played against the Celtics in those first 3 games. And you're going to sit here and tell me the Knicks are going to magically flip the switch against this Celtics team that just won a championship playing the exact same style of basketball that they played this entire season? With the depth that they possess, the 6th man of the year, and a starting lineup that complements each other perfectly? It's going to be Celtics in 5. If the Knicks are lucky, they take 2 games in the series. It sucks, but that's the reality of the situation. And that's why you see the Celtics as the heavy betting favorite in this series. We saw all we needed to see from the Knicks throughout the course of the season, not just against the Celtics, but against the Cavs, the Thunder, and a bunch of other solid teams as well. The Knicks simply did not play well enough against the best teams in the league. And I don't think that changes enough for the Knicks to magically pull off an upset in this series. I'd be shocked if the Knicks take this to 7. I'd be pleasantly surprised if they take it to 6. I don't think it's crazy to say you almost don't want them to take it to 6, because if they take it to 6, there's an argument to be made that Tom Thibodeau deserves to be brought back as head coach. Whereas if they lose in 5 or they get swept, Tom Thibodeau is 100% gone. And as someone who doesn't believe that the Knicks could win anything with Tom Thibodeau, that's a difficult situation for me. Obviously, I want the Knicks to win. I'm not going to be rooting against them in any one of these games. If they take it to 6 or 7, I'll be happy. But that may backfire on all of us here. So that'll do it. Celtics in 5 is my prediction. I pray the Knicks somehow take this series to 6 or 7, but I'm not too optimistic when it comes to it. So, you know, this is a behemoth of a Celtics team that has made 6 of the last 8 Eastern Conference Finals. And this is who you wanted to play. This is who you wanted to prove that you were good enough to beat. This is what you went out and did in the offseason. This was the goal, the end goal in mind, to be able to match up against this Celtics team. Doesn't look like the Knicks will put up a fight, but we'll see. You can call that pessimism. I'd like to say that it's realism. I'm rooted in objectiveness and reality. But we'll see. And I'll be discussing this all series long on some various live streams. I'll be doing one tonight to preview this game 1. So stay tuned for all that. All that will be posted on my YouTube. It will show up live. If you subscribe, turn on notifications, you'll get everything right when it comes on. And then if you haven't yet followed me on X/Twitter, you can follow me there at Bryce Gelman. And that will be where the majority of the people tune in to these live streams. So if you'd like to get on the conversation, if you'd like to tune in, thank you very much. Those are the 2 places you can watch. And again, there will be consistent lives throughout the course of this week. Hopefully we have something to talk about. Hopefully these games are at least close. The Knicks put up a fight. I guess we'll see. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Knicks. I got nothing else to say. Let's pray that they keep the series close. See you guys.